Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. Okay, there it goes. Computer's a little bit slow. And you know what I'm going to do? I am going to put up a little light panel, also known as Microsoft Paint with a white background, just to kind of give us a little extra illumination. Little trick here. Little trick. Welcome in. John Egan's already here. Hey, how's everyone doing? I hope everybody is well and safe. Thank you for asking. Although every time any sniffle happens, it's just so scary these days. It's just insane. All the craziness that's going on. So, but yeah, praise God. Everybody is safe, healthy, happy, all the good stuff. Mixmaster Jane, welcome in. Welcome in. And as you come in, smash that thumbs up for me. I would really appreciate that. Marcus is listening to Footloose soundtrack on vinyl right now. That is cool. That's cool. I like that. That's really, really cool. That is awesome. So ever since we came back from Southern Florida, it has just been like, my wife and I were talking, what day is it? She thought it was Thursday. It felt like a Monday to me, and it was neither of those. It was Tuesday. And it's just so weird. Also, sorry, my hair is doing what it's doing. So got those post-vacation strange vibes in terms of just not knowing which side is up. Also coming off the holidays kind of does that to you too. Larry, welcome in. Marcus said, oh yeah, I got to do Marcus. And yeah, give me a thumbs up if you wouldn't mind. Larry, a super chat right out of the gate, man. Thank you so much. Super chats, always appreciated. Never expected. Thank you so very, very much. That is awesome. Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that. Oh, cool. I can give a thumbs up. I didn't know I could do that. Can I? Did I? Cool. That's awesome, you guys. So I don't really have a huge agenda other than spending my Tuesday evening with you guys. I miss you guys. And I was already, thinking earlier today, I was like, awesome, dude. Tomorrow's a show day. And I got to come up with something good. I still don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I want to give you guys an update what's going on in the record player world, the manufacturing world. It's making it difficult for YouTube content creators. And hey, Marcus, thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's making it very difficult for them to keep product on the shelf. And it's not just record players, as you guys know. It is, it's hard to get any products now, just in general. And in what I understand is the backlog dates back to the original COVID issues and everything shutting down. It's just that now that, we've had a year or two to eat through all of the warehouse stock, in each country, here in the United States, for example, there's the backfilling of those warehouses is where the problem exists. So we didn't really feel it at first, but now we feel it because they can't backfill all of that merch. So every manufacturer that I've talked to has told me that they have massive supply chain issues. And when they have supply chain issues, as it should be, the products are prioritized to, just average people on the street purchasing those products. So review samples and products for review just kind of take a back seat to that. So the supply chain has to be quite full before, we'll have an opportunity to see anything to review, which makes it very difficult. It makes it very difficult. Like, what are we going to review tomorrow, literally on the 12th, January 12th? What are we going to review? I don't know. I do not have a new product at this moment in time. However, something can show up at any moment. And that's cool. And, we receive gifts from you guys, which is always a surprise. And we receive, products to review, and we order things. And for those people that are in the Vinyl Nation, we take those funds and invest it into the show. So I need to make the rounds, a couple of places I haven't been in a while here locally, and just see if there's anything cool for us to review. Because equipment reviews always do the best on this channel, by far. And like I've told a million times, Larry and John, you're going to have to hear it again. The channel was started with the hope and original plan of just reviewing records. The plan was I had my Vibe turntable, which is down there. I always say that. I got a lot. How many turntables are with an arms or foot reach for me right now? It's an unhealthy number. Let's just say that. Anyway, the idea was that the record player was sort of like, yeah, it's whatever. It wasn't the focus. And the focus was going to be on the cool records we could find, going to thrift stores, antique stores, and buying them online from time to time, and really not going after any particular artist or collecting, but really going after just the hunt. What can you turn up? And I had no idea how that would go. The plan was maybe I'll find 50 people in the YouTube world that would want to listen to me, and that's just a fun diversion, because we were going through a very stressful time personally. We had a very ill family member, and everybody in the family needed some sort of diversion. And for me, I had been doing records and record players second time around for about a year or two. And I was like, why don't we do a YouTube channel? That'd be fun. And so, the rest is history. But what ended up happening is about 2 or 3 months in, we're about to celebrate. This year is going to be our 5-year anniversary. If you can believe it. We're going to do something special. We're going to do a giveaway or something. Right now, my wife is cringing. She's like, oh, man, giveaways are so expensive. By the way, the people that won the record player has been very gracious, and even have reviewed them on their channels, like Tim Allen, which was awesome to see. It was kind of weird to see something I had reviewed and then somebody else was reviewing it. And now it's theirs, and that's cool. But it was an expensive proposition, but it was worth it, and we were glad to do it. We gave out something like 10 turntables and various electronics. And but anyway, so a couple months in on this channel, we got a hold of Victrola. They either got a hold of us or we got a hold of them, and it was their marketing agency, because usually those companies don't work with you directly. So it was a marketing agency, and they're like, hey, would you like to review a record player? I'm like, yeah. I didn't know how that worked. I don't know, what you're supposed to do for that. But they sent us an all-in-one, which was, really exciting. I was like you'll see it if you watch the video of my all-in-one Victrola unboxing. I think I'm unboxing it out on the porch, because I didn't have any space. I didn't have lights. I didn't have, anything to really, do the thing professionally on, which, as I've told you before, my wife and I are filmmakers, but, when you're a professional producer, oftentimes you don't own your own equipment. You rent stuff, especially if you're working in film. So it's just too expensive, and it keeps changing. So, I'm just shooting on whatever, a cell phone or an SLR that we had. And lo and behold, that video is the one that everybody goes nuts for. And it's like, okay, everyone wants reviews of record players, not records. And I get it, because any given record is going to appeal to a slice of people, a certain small percentage, and other people are going to be like, I don't want to watch that. I thought it was kind of a cool novelty, the idea of having a record on YouTube, because initially when I was looking into records, I didn't have a record player. I didn't have records. And if I wanted to, it all started, with Glenn Miller for me. I really wanted to hear Glenn Miller on record, not digitally. Digital audio for the 20 years prior, nearly 20 years. And I really wanted, to get back to that tangible thing that we all love. So that's kind of how we ended up going down that route. Lo and behold, it's like, how do you keep a channel going for 5 years reviewing products? It's tough to keep the product flow coming. And I try to pass the love on by doing giveaways and, and whatnot. And we've done so many of them, which I love doing. But when you do 2 shows a week, or 3, if you're in the nation, you get a 3rd show on Friday. Don't know about the nation? Check out the link. It's not in this video, but check out links we have in a membership tab. Join us there in the video. So it's been hard to keep that going. All that to say this, I have no idea what we're doing tomorrow, but it'll be cool. It's going to be cool. It's going to be some sort of equipment thing. That's going to be the best, hopefully vinyl related. All right, I'm already behind on comments, and my computer is starting to buffer. Sorry about that. If audio or video starts looking bad, just let me know. Larry says, plinth is spring loaded for vibration isolation. Which one are we talking about? Sorry, I'm playing admin here. Anthony says, Wonder if you know. I'm not sure what you mean, Anthony. Let me know. Larry says, I found a 10-disc Reader's Digest set of Arthur Fiedler, not Fielder, as you all let me know. That's cool at a thrift shop. That's really, really cool. That vinyl shop we checked out on South Broadway a couple of months ago has in their basement where the bulk of their vinyl is, they have the Reader's Digest sets, and you know some of them can be kind of thick. They have them stacked like brickwork in the back. There must be 500 of them. So I'm pretty sure everyone ever made. Somewhere around here I've got a catalog. It's kind of fun flipping through the Reader's Digest catalog. It's like late 60s. But if you can go to, if you can get a hold of if you can find something you like in a Reader's Digest box set, quality is always good because they're made by RCA. And if you go Time Life box set, those are made by Columbia, I believe. How do I snail mail you a record? Frederick, thank you so much. I would really appreciate that. So our P.O. box is listed in our About tab. If you go to the YouTube page, it's in the About tab. And then most videos also have that down there. So when I post this video, I'll try to add that as well. But it's P.O. Box 620344, Littleton, Colorado, 80162. And I would very much appreciate that. We'll get it up on the show. Phil says, hey, Record-ology, you still have the Bass Jacks 3-speed black plinth micro turntable? I heard the passing of the late actor Bob Saget. Yeah, I heard about that too. That's sad news. America's Funny Some Videos. I grew up on that show. Funny story. When I met my wife, her grandma hated that show. And I was like, why? It's great. It's like one of the most entertaining things. But she had an interesting perspective. She's like, I don't like the fact that people are laughing at other people getting hurt. And I was like, that's a real pure way to look at that. But I never thought about that. But no, I love that stuff. And it's interesting. Remember back in the day, it was like, mail us your tapes. You know what I mean? Now I'm sure it's all upload your footage from your phone. What's a tape? My wife hates it when people say, hold on, and they hold up their phone. I'm going to tape it real quick, or I need to tape it or film it. This is a little VHS tape. That'd be cool. I would like that. What? Bass Jacks 3-speed. I have a vague memory of this. Which one was this? Hold on. I'm going over to my own YouTube page to find out. What on earth? Bass Jacks. I do remember that. It was like a brand of something we reviewed. Mini turntable, you said. Come on. Bass Jacks. Remind me what that was. I'm sorry. I do remember that, but I can't think of what on earth it was. About one of the Bass Jacks turntables. What do I do for a living? I work in IT. And I I came from a lab. I started off my career in television and film production. It's where my wife and I met. And eventually migrated into information technology, specifically telecom. I would love someday to be able to do this for a living. That would be good. Larry says, go to his About page for PO. Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. Mixmaster Jane says, got to go. Thank you for your content in advance. Thank you. Sorry you got to run. Hopefully you can watch the replay, but thank you very much. He's in IT. Larry knows this already. Okay, cool. Phil says, I'm into David Bowie's music and Prince's music on vinyl. That's cool, Phil. Awesome. Cool to hear. Larry also knows I was in TV video production. Apparently, I've said this stuff before. I have a tendency to repeat myself. But, you got new people coming in all the time, which I'm really grateful for. So those people haven't heard it. So Poet's Dreams. I need a new stereo receiver. Just a plain, no whistles. Just one I can plug my turntable cassette deck CDs. Any suggestions? So there are a couple of weird technological things that I never got into that were everybody else but me did. One of them was DVRs. I've never had a DVR in my life. People are like, what? I had VCR and then kind of at the beginning of the DVD era, switched to DVDs and wasn't really recording. I worked in broadcast, so I was working in Beta SP and 3/4-inch U-matic. Yes, I'm that old. But I never, for home use, never got into. We had a DVD recorder at one point. I think there was a hard drive built into that unit, but not like one from the cable company or from a satellite provider. And the other one is a receiver. I've never had I've really had a receiver set up. I've had like a mini stereo system that I've used to switch inputs. And right now my main setup uses a mechanical switch. It's a Pelican 4-input, which I cheat by looping inputs through other devices because I really have about 6 or 7 things going into it. And we're breaking up again. I hope we're really there. Anyway, so I don't use a receiver. I use power speakers. All that to say, I almost bought one recently. It was my birthday late last year. My wife gave me a budget. She says, here, pick out something you've been interested in. And I was looking. I ultimately ended up buying an internet radio because that was also new to me, which I love and use a lot. But I was looking at some of the, I'm trying to think of the brand. What on earth? I can't think of the brand. But if you Google search, I want to say Pyle, Pyle. Now, you'll never see a Pyle record player on here because they made it very clear they don't want to work with us in any shape, form, or fashion early on. So you'll never see their products on it. But I almost got one of those. And I don't think that's a really high-end brand, but they look cool. And I was willing to try it. So all I have to say, I don't know. And I'm sorry, I don't have a recommendation. Okay, if you see me go silent like this, I'm just catching up on comments. Lyndon says, good night. How are you doing? I like your content. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being here and for watching. I appreciate that. By the way, guys, if you could hit the thumbs up for me real quick, that would help YouTube know that we're actively chatting, and I would appreciate that. Larry says, get a brand name receiver like Sony Panasonic. I would agree. A vintage or like as new as possible, but relatively used. You know what I mean? Like a 2000 to 2005-ish receiver. That's always the best bet when it comes to that stuff. Phil says, me too. I grew up watching Bob on both those shows with the 90s Full House. Oh, yeah. Full House and America's Funniest Home Videos. Yeah, both of those. I watched both of those. Saget was the man of the 90s. He was. And, when I heard he passed away, I got it's sad, but I got an interesting story to tell you. I had to go back because I say he was a stand-up comedian, and I was watching some of the stuff, and I guess he did some kind of raunchy humor, but he was also very family-friendly on TV. It was an interesting dynamic. Seemed like a nice guy by all accounts. It was interesting to see him, what he looked like now compared to back in the 90s. It was weird because he didn't look old. He didn't look like he was 30 years older. He just looked different. It was very strange to me, but an interesting story. So you've all heard by now that Betty White passed away, and I'm a Golden Girls fan. In fact, I got a Golden Girls shirt on right now. It says Savage at the bottom. I'm not going to stand up because that just wouldn't look pretty, but it has a picture of Sophia and it says Savage, and that's an awesome shirt. I've gotten compliments on it. This is one of my shirts like will start conversation. But anyway, so we were out in Orlando recently, and it's been open a couple of years, but we had really wanted to check out Galaxy's Edge at Disney's Hollywood Studios in Orlando. If you are a Star Wars fan, and I apologize, I know it's kind of tacky to talk about vacation stuff on YouTube like this, especially because it's not what we're about. But if you are a Star Wars fan and you can get there, you should do that. If you can't, I get it, because it took me years before we hadn't been out to that park since 2013 until this last right after Christmas, we went out there. But if you don't know, you may not know, the Golden Girls house exterior, there's an actual house that they used for the first season. But the second season onward, Disney, because Disney owns ABC, which is the network that had the Golden Girls, used their residential street backlot at Disney's MGM Studios, as it was then called, because at that time it was a working movie studio, and they had a backlot and all this stuff. Residential street, they recreated that house in Orlando. Fast forward to 2017 or whenever Galaxy's Edge opened, that space where Star Wars Galaxy's Edge occupies the same physical space that Residential Street was. And yes, this is the height of nerddom, okay? This is two franchises coming to meet as they arc across the sky. People have identified the spot where the Golden Girls house is in Galaxy's Edge. You can pinpoint it where it is. And knowing Disney, there's some homage in there somewhere. Somewhere, somehow, something's called something, or there's some kind of art or something that will be a throwback. Disney does that kind of stuff. The thing I love about Disney World and Disney in general is there's so many layers of the onion of everything. People can walk through the parks and be like, yeah, it's a ride, it's whatever, and not have any idea about what's actually happening before their eyes. But if you want to check it out on a budget, aka free, just YouTube search Galaxy's Edge. There's 2 rides. And by the way, the park is emulated both in Florida and California. It's pretty much identical, similar. There's this Millennium Falcon ride where you're in the Millennium Falcon, called Smuggler's Run, I believe. And you're walking through the Millennium Falcon. It's amazing. And they've got the thing recreated at full scale. And then the kind of primo ride that opened a year later is Rise of the Resistance. I can't describe it, and I'm not going to try to. Just YouTube search Rise of the Resistance and watch a video of the it's amazing. I put a short clip in the last video we did just because I couldn't resist. But yeah, that's amazing. I don't know how I got on that tangent. I am so sorry. I forgot what kind of channel we actually do here. I think I'm getting alerts to shut up or something. Hold on a second here. Hold on. What do we got here? Sound is popping. The mic is so annoying. The audio should be off. Let me turn this fan off. Hopefully that is a sound okay for you guys. If it's bad, I apologize. But yeah, let's see here. The one for 25, Phil says. So are you asking about that unit? So I've actually had a hard time with that unit since that video, and I've been meaning to post a pinned comment. But that thing I got from Five Below has been really bad ever since that video. It did a great job in the video. Sometimes I can't get it to spin. I can't get it to turn on. I have to use a high power supply. It's glitchy. And I know they make those in mass, so you may get one that's perfect. I thought, and then it crapped out on me. I need to do an update on that. I'm good now. Okay, so it must have been the fan. I apologize, guys, about that sound. It makes me wonder because I work in, this is my office that I actually work in too, daytime work. So I wonder how annoying the people are on my Zoom calls because I use the same mic and I do have my fan on all day. I have to have air blowing on me. It's like a fat guy thing. I have to have air blowing on my face all day. Okay, at what point does it turn? This is from FS Flip 3111. Catchy name. At what point does a turntable peak at performance and value? In other words, what price point is ideal as a starting point for great quality? That's a fantastic question. And your question shows me that you are already pretty advanced in all of this because a lot of people do this for 50 years, still don't understand how a suitcase player fits into the mix. It blows my mind sometimes. Anyway, great question. The answer is, again, my opinion. Everything in vinyl is so subjective. Everybody's opinion is right and everything you think is wrong. That's what I've come to realize. So everything I say is going to be wrong to a lot of people, and everything they think is wrong to other people. All I have to say is just very subjective. In my experience, the price point is sort of in the 170 to 300 range where you really hit that stride. If you get on with like an LP 120, which I was looking at Audio Technica's site today, they're like $300 now. It used to be that expensive. The price is going up, and it's probably supply chain related. But yeah, I think that you get up to 170 because you can get like a U-turn basic, and it's a fantastic turntable. And I feel that that's really kind of the sweet point. If you don't have that kind of cash, you can still get a good sounding setup for less. But that's my assessment. Phil goes on to say it was a cheap turntable, $25. Oh, bass jacks. Is that the one? Oh, okay. Bass, that's what it was. It was okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, I've just been having issues with it. It's kind of a micro turntable. I actually had to trash a couple of projects I was working on some kind of comparison video, and I shot everything with the other turntable, and then I pivoted to do the bass jacks turntable from Five Below, and I couldn't get the thing on. I couldn't get it on, and then I finally did get it on, and it sounded terrible, and it was very quiet. So yeah, mine is apparently spun its last spin. Newbies are always welcome. Absolutely. Something like MK12, so around 1,000 used. Yeah, that's above my pay grade for sure. Wow, guys, I'm so behind. I'm so sorry. Let me get caught up before I start blabbing on. I'm going to be concise. Somewhere my wife is laughing because I don't know what that means. Okay. Phil says, thanks, Record-ology, for taking the time to answer my questions. Absolutely, anytime. Appreciate it so much, my friend. My friend, thank you. I appreciate you so very much. Absolutely, anytime. Dazen Kari says, I love your content. Thank you so much. That's awesome. That's an honor. I really appreciate that. Your videos are awesome. Thanks for your reviews. I bought my first record player, got into vinyl. Greetings from Colombia. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Welcome in. That is great. Buena noche. Larry says, turntable at 200 to 500 is a great value and great sound. I agree. Poet's Dreams. I think receivers are now amps. Yeah, receivers are like the amplifier, the tuner, kind of all in one. For a tuner, I'm using the Ocean Digital Internet Radio, which has an FM tuner, which I wanted an AM FM tuner, but they didn't have that. The CD player, I like the idea of the slot-in CD player, but this has kind of rough edges, so I'm always paranoid it's going to scratch. So I do have a separate Sony CD player. So I was hoping for AM FM, but most radio stations you can get the online feed, and that's fine. That's fine. But to have access to 40,000 internet radio stations from all over the world, it's awesome. So when a friend of mine in another state or country says, there's this awesome radio station, you got to check it out. They play, whatever kind of music, I can usually find it and check it out, which is fun. That's really, really cool. Anthony, who are you talking about? Let me go up and see your comment. I don't see the first thing I see from you says, wonder if you know, but I don't see. Oh, are you talking about Bob Saget? Larry, Audio Technica, good brand. I agree. Their stuff is great. Larry Shaver says Estelle was a character. She always cracked me up. She's grown on me. When I started, there's a show that I never really got to watch very much of, kind of like Star Trek Next Generation. It's another thing I'm binge watching right now. I'm up to like season 6, about halfway through it. Because I want to watch Picard, but I've been told I'm not allowed to until I finish Next Generation and the movies. But Golden Girls was the same thing. I'd wanted to see it and seen a couple episodes, but I have Hulu, so I was like, let's just jump into it. So I've been really enjoying it. My wife's cracking up because I got all this Golden Girl stuff. Like I have, let me see, on my desk here. I love to have like cluttered crap on my desk, but yeah, I've got like magnets. I've got these dice, Golden Girls dice and stuff, just knickknacks. I love that guy. Second in Charles has all kinds of geeky stuff. And but anyway, I've been working my way through that show, and I didn't initially. Estelle Getty's character wasn't my favorite, but it's grown on me. Picture it, Sicily, 1912. It's really grown on me, and it's funny because she was the same age as the other ladies. They just made her up to look older. It's kind of funny. Sad now. They're all gone. They're all gone. One day I'd like to go back and watch. What was the name of the lady that played Dorothy? I usually know this, but like I say all the time, I lose 20% of my fragile intelligence, when I go live. Anyway, she had a show prior to Golden Girls called Maude in the 70s. And I think that might be on Hulu as well. I've watched a little bit just to kind of check it out. And what's funny is a lot of these secondhand players like Rue McCallaghan and who was Blanche, and even Betty White did guest appearances on Maude, and some of the secondary players too, which is really interesting to me. Also, I've noticed, this cracks me up, also another ABC show, Home Improvement, possibly my favorite TV show of all time. A lot of the bit players, the secondary characters in Home Improvement, which started filming in 91. So there's a little bit of an overlap. Golden Girls, they're in Golden Girls. It's so weird. I'm like, hey, I know that person. That's so-and-so from Home Improvement. That's a water bottle. I'm not vaping, just to make it clear. My wife's like, why do you want a straw water bottle? That's weird. It's like a baby bottle, but it looks really bad when I take a drink from it. So I just do. I'm sick of like tilting my head back all day. Okay, what else we got? Love these comments, you guys. Keep them coming. You saw the exterior of the Golden Girls house. Now, the Florida one or the LA one? The LA one still stands. If somebody were to sell on eBay props from that show, or like screen used props or pieces of the house set, I would buy that. I would buy that. I own a brick. It's in the other room. That was, my wife will say allegedly, but it was. I have a certificate of authenticity, and I tracked down the history. In the early 2000s, when Jimmy Stewart's house was demolished, the contractor of the demolition company auctioned off some bricks from his house. And I own a brick of Jimmy Stewart's Bel Air house. It still has some paint. You can actually match it up where it went. Paid $100 for that brick when I really couldn't afford it. Miles High, the two things that really draw me to vinyl were the expense and the inconvenience. Well, when you finally pay the expense and go through the inconvenience, it's like, I've gone through something and I'm going to enjoy it. So I get that. Phil Fox says, I was a fan of the legendary late Betty White and Golden Girls and the rest of the cast. B. Arthur, that's who it was, yeah. Estelle Getty, Rue McClanahan. I thought it was McCallaghan or something like that. McClennan? Betty White is missed by somebody. She's interesting how a 99-year-old lady was able to be trendy. Very interesting. I've seen some clips of her, like on like Jimmy Fallon and stuff, where it really cracks me up. She has the edge, and I think that's what kept her relevant. I guess they said in the news today she had a stroke. That's awful. She apparently had a stroke 6 days prior, and the family was keeping it under wraps, and she finally passed away from it. Miles says the sound is fine. Glad to hear. Phil says Sidney Poitier. Oh yeah, great actor, legendary. They all died at the same time. Sidney Poitier was 94. That's amazing. Yeah, I remember film school. I mean, some of his stuff is mandatory. It's always during Christmas, and it's always in groups. They say death comes in threes, but with celebrity deaths, it's like they all happen around Christmas and they all come in a group. Jeremy says the audio is good. Glad to hear it. Jaden VHS Archive and Record Archive says, last Saturday got 2 records from FYE, the Rugrats movie and Madonna Like a Virgin. That's cool. That's awesome. $1,000 for a turntable is ridiculous to Larry. I tend to agree, but I guess if you were rich, then 1,000 would mean less than it does to you and I. But right now, yeah. I mean, I'm a married man with kids. Now, albeit my kids are grown up, but I'm not going to go spend more than like 30 or 40 bucks on myself. A friend of mine the other day is like, hey, here's a link to this cool reel to reel, because I've been talking about looking to upgrade this guy. And it was like $190. And he's like, this is a great deal. And it was a great deal. But I'm like, I'm going to go I'm just going to buy a $190 deck for my own self. I don't know how things work in your family, but they're not going to work like that here. There's a bill that needs to be paid way before that needs to happen. So yeah, $1,000 turntable. I mean, maybe if I was a millionaire, but no, I don't see that happening. Did the audio go out on the bass jacks due to the micro USB power supply? I don't know. It was like it's sometimes it comes on, sometimes it does. It's very flaky. So yeah, it could just be a cheapo connection there. Soundtrack scores on vinyl are great to hear on a good turntable. Absolutely. I've got a couple of the Star Trek movies, the first one and the third one on vinyl. They sound great. My Search for Spock one it sounded really noisy. There's a lot of semblance. And it cleaned and cleaned and cleaned. Kind of like my Patsy Cline Showcase album at first. I had to play it like 10 times and scrub it out on the record cleaner before it was, usable. So that's kind of a weird thing. But once I got it cleaned, it was fine. Tamara says, I have a problem with my Crosley C100. When I put the record on the beginning and the needle slides across, can you tell me why? Because it makes my record skip. So does it skip all the way across? It's pretty normal for it to kind of jerk in a little bit, which is annoying. But your C100 has an anti-skate adjustment back near the counterbalance. So you may try turning that one way or another fairly, significantly just to test it to see if that reduces the tendency. Because the record player, by its nature, wants to kind of jerk the tone arm towards the center of the record. And that helps kind of push against that tendency. So it neutralizes the tone arm position. So try that. If it's going all the way over, yeah, it's hard to say. I've heard of this happening before. I've seen it happen when people don't take off the needle guard, the stylus guard, and I'm assuming you've taken that off. But sometimes record player companies will sell record players, usually suitcases, that have a picture of the tone arm playing a record with the stylus guard still on there. So people don't know. They're like, oh, I have to take that off. So if you don't take that off, it will slide across. But if that's off, I would play with the anti-skate. That would be my recommendation. Record-ology, is it safe for a 78 to be played on a micro groove needle? I asked a few days ago, but left early and didn't know what you said. Sorry about that, and I'm behind again on comments. I hope you're still there. This is my opinion only, okay? I have no data other than my own experiences to back this up. I don't think it will damage it. The reason is this. A needle, probably if you're asking this question, you probably have a needle that's diamond. Diamond is the hardest substance on Earth, whereas a shellac record is made up of clay and excretions from the lac bug of India. And all that being an somewhat abrasive surface, although the quietest and smoothest they could come up with at the time, I really don't see that happening. And it probably is a grayscale kind of thing, similar to damaging your record on a suitcase player, where it's a grayscale, where maybe it doesn't, utterly destroy it and damage it, but perhaps it would wear the needle down because it's kind of like sandpaper and, but a diamond's the hardest substance on Earth. So, you know what I mean? In my experience, no. I know a lot of people will, have no issue doing that. They'll play 78s and yeah, they sound worse with a micro groove stylus because, it's a smaller stylus and a wider groove. So you're picking up a lot of noise and not as much music, but I wouldn't worry about it. That's my own personal thing, but people will shoot me down on that. So again, my opinion. Skipping can be caused by the lift shelf. Oh yeah, Larry, that's a good point. So make sure that when you put the cueing lever down and the little lift shelf that lifts the tone arm up, make sure that it's pushed down out of the way because sometimes that'll hang up. That's a good question. Maggie says, Timmy could possibly a warped record issue. Oh yeah, that's a good idea too. Oh, Anthony, see, we're talking about Bob Saget. I hadn't heard that, but I haven't been on the news in a while. Brandon says, thank you for what you do. Thank you. I appreciate you guys being there. This is just fun to me. This is just fun. This is not work to me. This is what I get to do after work. I just love hanging out with you guys. And I love show and tell. I love learning from people. I love just hanging out. I think that's fun. Jaden says, on my channel, they'll uploaded songs from my copy. Let's all sing with the Chipmunks. That's cool. Larry says, B. Arthur was really good on All in the Family. And then there was, that's true. She wasn't All in the Family. And then also, There was the Golden Girls spin-off show. There's a couple spin-offs. Golden Tower, I think, is what the main spin-off was, and it had everybody but B. Arthur. She did not. She wanted to retire from the show at that point. They've added that to Hulu, so I plan on watching that after I finish the main run. Phil says, B. Arthur. Oh my gosh, you guys are sending super chats. Thank you guys so much. Oh, you guys are awesome. I am so far behind on comments. I'm so sorry. I will get to every one of them. Started on Maude, spin-off All in the Family. Oh, so Maude was a spin-off of All in the Family. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Everything's a spin-off of something, it seems. Norman Lear. That's cool. Desin Kari, welcome to the Vinyl Nation. That is awesome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. That is great. I didn't know I got notified when you guys joined the Vinyl Nation. So you'll get an extra show every week. And, you know, one of the benefits too is exclusive chats, which you get you get the badge. You see Larry's got the little deal. You've got one now too, which is awesome. But exclusive chats and stuff. But if, you know, once we get more people that join, I think that we will be able to do more of those chats. Because I wouldn't want there to be like 30 people on here and 2 people can talk. So I'm kind of holding off on that. However, you get elevated privileges, you know, even in the public one. Larry saw the one in Florida. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And I found a behind the scenes picture of Residential Street, which I had never been there in person. My first trip to Disney World was 06. So I way missed that. They tore it out in the early 2000s. But apparently those facades were not practical sets. Most of them were just literal facades with like plywood backing. Also check the tracking for us. The NS-Gate setting agreed. Sometimes it's happening to brand new records too. Rue and Betty were sisters on Carol Burnett's show, Mama's Family Sketches. Oh, that's cool. You guys are helping out. Tamara, I appreciate that. Bob Saget passed away from COVID. Wow, I didn't not read that. That's terrible. Tamara says, does anybody know any good cassette decks from the 80s? Whew. Cassette decks from the 80s. You know, for me, rather than a particular make and model, it's like features I'm looking for. I've learned most of everything from you guys, literally. But what I've sort of learned for myself that led me to purchase my Yamaha down here was that with cassette decks, if you want good cassette sound, you have to go vintage. Nothing modern is going to sound good compared to this stuff yet that we've come across. There's no Dolby being licensed anymore. So you just can't buy. The new stuff is like a secondary or a novelty or a portable thing, but it's not like a hi-fi cassette tape experience. With a good, high fidelity, high quality cassette tape, you can experience amazing sound. And you don't need Dolby S and metal tape to do it. I've tried that. It does sound good, but you can get CD quality sound with Dolby S on a metal tape, but you don't have to go to that extreme to get good sound. Just a regular ferric oxide tape with Dolby B. I don't even use Dolby C. To me, it sounds too muffled. On a regular consumer deck, it's audio enjoyment. It is pure it has a good sound. I've really learned to appreciate it. So for me personally, the better decks have one tape deck. So if you see a tape deck with dual, that is a lower level consumer deck that was designed to dub. You may be saying, well, how can it be better to have only one? It sounds risky. And I felt that way too, but it just is the way it is. So typically the decks that have a single well or a single cassette player in them, recorder, are better. So that's the first thing to look for. Also, I've learned that you don't want auto reverse. You want a non-auto reverse deck, because auto reverse, there's a possibility for alignment when that head rotates to play the other side of the tape, because that's how the majority of them work, is the head just, there's like a servo that activates a solenoid and it just flips around. But there's a possibility of that not being in alignment. If your tape head and your tape path are not in alignment, the high fidelity is the first thing to go. The sound will be a little muffled. This will probably happen gradually to the point you won't notice it at first. But in order to have precision tape alignment, don't get auto reverse. And you may be saying, oh, that's annoying, because then you have to flip the tape. It's the trade-off that you need to make in order to get that. This is, again, my tips. Also, I only want tape decks that have logic controls, which are like the click buttons that typically aren't by the cassette player. Typically, they're in the middle of the unit or away from the cassette transport. That's my preference. I just like logic controls. So that being said, you're kind of in the 90s at that point. Usually in the 80s, things were soft touch controls, which means they were physical mechanical buttons, but they weren't as, they weren't like piano keys from the 70s. They were a little bit, more subdued. So that's my preference. That's what I would do. So mine is a Yamaha KX390. It's a 2-head. If you see 3-head, the sound quality isn't any different. They just have a separate play and record head. So when you're recording on a 3-head deck, you can hear the sound back from the tape itself versus the source input. So if I'm recording on my 2-head deck, what happens is when I'm listening as I'm recording something, I'm hearing the source input. I'm not hearing the tape. Why is that important? Well, the dynamics of the sound, the bias or whatever, the levels, usually the volume is the biggest thing. It's going to be a little quieter and a little different of what's actually on the tape versus the source signal. So in a 2-head deck, you're just listening to that signal until you record it, play it back. Then you're listening to the actual tape. With a 3-head tape deck, you can listen live while you record. I don't have that. But to me, that's not a feature that I require. So those are my 2 cents. And if, you guys let me know in the comments what yours is as well. If you're not watching the live, you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments. If you're watching live, thank you for being here, and just hit, put it in the chat. Maggie says, oh yeah. And also check out our videos on setting anti-skate. We've done that too. Larry says, is the tape deck you want to upgrade? I have one. I assume that's directed back at Tamara. Anthony says, the record player I bought records flash drive and then a few minutes later resets the turntable. Oh, weird. What make and model is it? New Level Auto sends a super chat. That is awesome. Thank you so much. Super chats, always appreciated, never expected. Thank you so very, very much. I appreciate that. And someday if we get hundreds of people in our lives, that will make sure that your comment gets seen, heard, validated. Question is, how do you clean your records to ensure they last? We've done over close to 900 videos. We've done so many cleaning products. Everything from disc spinner, the disc washer, what the heck is that thing called? The yellow Spin Clean, the knockoff versions of the Spin Clean, to various chemicals. I have a shelf full of various sprays. Some of them, I get some stuff, like, let me see. This is how in the weeds I am on cleaning, okay? These are pre-production formulas that various companies have sent to me to evaluate the actual composition of the chemical solution prior to release. So I've got all these pre-release bottles, and if you can recognize the bottle color and whatnot, you'll know what companies I've been working with on those. But some of, like this one was sudsing up too much. See how it's all bubbly? Too much suds on that one. This one, they got it down to a little bit flatter formula, stuff like that. Microfiber cloths, all this stuff. I tried everything. We even have reviewed this thing that looks like a scale. You put your needle on there and it shines an ultraviolet light on there to, literally disinfect and ultrasonically vibrate, clean your stylus. We've done the gel stylus cleaners for the records, the needles. We've done it all. We've done everything except ultrasonic record cleaners. I can't afford that. I've had records that are ultrasonically cleaned. I saw Techmoan's video on that ultrasonic cleaner, and he was unimpressed, and which he usually is on everything. Oops. But I was unimpressed too. I was like, really? $3,000 thing? Some of these cost thousands, these ultrasonic cleaners. And ultrasonic just means vibrations. So literally those things are just dipping your record in water like a Spin Clean, but it's vibrating the water too. Some people swear by that. Swear by it. How do I get my records clean? And I've done videos on what are my recommended core cleaning techniques. But to answer your question, if I have really dirty records, I spin clean them. This, to me, is the best way to deep clean a record. And I've had some records, like, again, my Patsy Cline Showcase, my first Patsy Cline record, that it took multiple spin clean attempts to get out. But if you go to the thrift store and you get records, even if they look okay, they have a couple smudges or whatever, run it through the spin clean, look at the water. The reason why those are yellow, they were designed specifically to contrast the gunk that is built up in the tank after you clean it. And the yellow helps you see it better. But shine a light down in there after you've cleaned your supposedly clean records, and you'll see what you got off of them. You will have pubes in there, dirt, grime, grit, sand, just weird things will be like, well, this record I thought was clean. And then you'll pull the record out, you'll dry it off. It's a bit of a process. It's a pain. It's a minimum of an hour, even if you're cleaning 3 or 4 records, setting it up, filling it with water, cleaning the records, drying the records, putting it all away. You're looking at an hour minimum. So I usually save up records until I get a stack to go clean them, but you will not be disappointed. You'll pull a record out of there and you'll still have the polish on it. You'll be like, holy cow, it looks brand new. That is the best way to do it. Now, if I'm just playing a record, every side of a record I play gets the anti-static mascara brush treatment on the stylus, sometimes the sticky dip thing, and a carbon fiber brush, which I draw back across 2 times, and then 1 time I touch it to the spindle to ground out the static, because the carbon fibers are good for that. So that's how I clean on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes if I have 1 record to clean and I don't feel like getting out the spin clean, I'll use a spray cleaner like these things, and not a microfiber cloth, because that won't do anything, but something with some thickness to it, some plushness to it, to get down. And actually the best thing you can use, somewhere around here I have them, are the cloths that come with the spin clean. And those are really good for getting down in the groove. So if you just want to do 1 or 2 records and you don't feel like an hour and a half project with a spin clean, that's how I do it. So there you go. Tamara says, okay, talking with each other. Please disregard what I typed above, Larry. No problem. Dun, 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 dun. I have a normal modern player, the Sapphire. I think tip is kind of red. Yep, that would be Sapphire/Ruby. Which, if you get a chance, upgrade it to a diamond. Just so it'll last longer. You can buy a 3-pack for like $5 or $6 on eBay or on Amazon. But be careful if you can find a size or a model that it works on, because there's a couple different variants. For instance, the Crosley red tip styli often don't fit the Victrolas. Larry says, back in the day, disc washer was the one to clean records. I remember disc washer for CDs too. I never had one, but it was a wood handle with the bottom. That's cool. That's really cool. I've used that. By the way, back to the cleaning thing, we did a show on the glue method where I put the wood glue on. Not very practical. It took 2 days to clean 1 record, but it worked good. It worked really, really good. But when it comes to cleaning records, you guys, people put so much, and it starts sounding really like ritualistic. 2 strokes of this brush in this direction, another stroke back this way. It's like Tai Chi with the record player before we could actually hear any music. This is where my wife is totally like thinking that this is very extra hobby. Just listen to the song. No, we have to demagnetize. We have to clean the stylus. But it's the ritual. It's that part of it that draws a lot of us in, is it not? I mean, I like that stuff. But it can get a little bit goofy. But the glue method was amazing. It pulled off. So it was a filthy record. I got the dirtiest record I could find. And it was like polished, brand new looking at the end of it. Yeah. But if you don't have that stuff, a disc or like a spin clean or the Crosley one or the Victrola one, they're overpriced, I think. I don't think they shouldn't be priced as high. It's just a piece of plastic and some soap. If you're looking for solutions, though, I would recommend avoiding alcohol-based ones. The Crosley solution uses alcohol, which is not good if you're cleaning like shellac, because the shellac and alcohol do not mix. The reason why they put alcohol in it is so it'll dry faster. But the spin clean doesn't use alcohol, so it's a better formulation. But even detergent, dish detergent under a sink, avoiding the label if possible, but don't freak out if you get it wet. It's probably not going to damage it. In my experience, I'm making no guarantees for you, but most of those press labels don't have an issue with getting wet. Will do just fine as well. So, Jody says, I just bought a Victrola Journey and Signature, but I can't seem to get the Bluetooth out to work. Make sure they do have Bluetooth out. I don't know if those ones do. A lot of turntables that say Bluetooth are only Bluetooth in. I have not reviewed either of those, I don't think. But check the manual. A lot of people have a hard time with that, so I don't blame you. I use a microfiber cloth with water to clean my records. That's cool. Bluetooth is very iffy on any device. Bluetooth is easy on my turntable. I don't know what this is, so we are going to remove that for the time being. If that was legit, say it again in a different way. We're getting caught up here. I never listened to a record player, but my wife has one. And one record, where do I start? So you're asking me like to get into vinyl records? We have a playlist about getting started into vinyl records. I would start there. But in essence, decide if you want to do vinyl records for the novelty as an extra side thing in addition to your primary music listening, or if you really want to invest in a hi-fi, it sounds the best it can sound kind of a system. Once you make that determination, you go two different ways. If you just want the novelty aspect and it's kind of a fun thing and it's just going to be, it's not going to be your primary way of listening to music, then, a suitcase player, an all-in-one player, some kind of novelty player would be the way to go. Oh, how do you put it on with the needle on? Sorry. The other thing was just if you want to go hi-fi, if you want to go for the sound, it's a different route. How do I put it on and put the needle on? So basically, you just want to touch the record by the outside edges. You want to avoid touching the grooves because the oils in your fingers can attract dust and it doesn't make the record like fall apart or anything. But, try to touch it by the edges if you can. There's also mitts and things. One of my favorite things is, although I don't use it as much as I should, is this thing here. It's a Hudson Hi-Fi record mitt, and it's literally designed to clamshell with soft felt interior. And what the idea is that, let's say you have a record, as I happen to have here. Let's say you've got this record and you want to take it out. Well, you don't want to be, you put your fingers in there. How are you going to pull it out? You don't want to slide it out like this because it could fall. So these are great because you literally just pull the record out like that, the way you want to. Hey, cool, one-sided record. And you don't get your fingerprints on it. One of my first videos, it's still very popular, was this history of 78 RPM records. And I was holding the record, probably the worst possible way you could do it. But filming while holding records and handling records makes you do things that you wouldn't normally do. Boy, do I hear it on that video. It's either you're holding the record wrong, you idiot moron, you don't know what you're talking about, or I made the mistake of saying shellac records don't warp. And, 5,000 people have told me that they do, and I'm also an idiot for that. That being said, of the hundreds, if not thousands of 78s I have and have handled, I've never come across a warped one. By the way, that reminds me, I've got an interesting questionnaire thing I'm going to be putting in the community tab probably tonight or tomorrow. Apparently we missed a super chat. Let me go back. Holy cow. I don't know how much COP 4000 is, but thank you so much, Dazan Kari. Also, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing this. Thank you so much. That is crazy. Do you recommend buying vinyl on Amazon? That's a great question. I was thinking about that earlier today, about how I would recommend people buy records. We have quite a few opportunities to buy records online. A lot of people don't have stores. They don't have thrift stores to go to or charity shops. So where do they buy records? Where are you going to buy them online? If you buy from eBay, which I've done quite a bit, you can get good deals because people don't know what they have. But oftentimes things arrive damaged because they're not shipped or they're not packed properly. And, sometimes people think that records, usually this is the antique store syndrome, where if you go buy records in antique stores, they think that they're worth $25 a piece no matter what, when they're really $1, $2, or $3 records. So that's kind of a bummer. So what do you do? So eBay can be hit or miss. If you are going in like razor sharp, knowing exactly what you want a copy of, it can be good because you have good visibility with the pictures on eBay to see what it looks like, the condition. You can chat with them. Discogs is like the cool everybody does it site. I've never bought a record on Discogs. I've used it extensively for research, but I've never bought a record on Discogs. The prices I see on there are amazing, but I don't see, doesn't look like you can see a preview of the record. So I'm kind of nervous to buy it sight unseen. I like to have a picture of what I'm buying online. Amazon is an interesting one because if you're buying a new record, that would probably be a good place to go to. So I've done it before and I don't have a bad experience with it. They seem to ship things okay. If you're buying new vinyl, you know you're spending 25 to 35 to 45 and up for a record. So it's not a like affordable place, but if you want a new record, especially like trending popular music, which isn't, you know, that's not as much what I'm into kind of a thing, then that might be a good solution. One of my favorite places to buy new records, you guys, is Walmart, because Walmart has a they have exclusive versions. They have exclusive releases, and they'll re-release, you know, famous albums with, you know, special colors and special, you know, editions. Target does it too. Like I got this amazing Mariah Carey splatter vinyl for Christmas that was a Target exclusive, and you know, once it's gone, and then those things go up in value. I missed out on a Patsy Cline pink pressing of the Greatest Hits album a couple of years ago because I hadn't discovered that music yet. And now those go for $40 and up. People selling them secondhand. So I prefer for new vinyl to buy, you know, those kind of cool editions at like Walmart or Target. And, you know, those exclusive editions. Second and Charles is also pretty good sometimes for that kind of stuff. You can also, sometimes Second and Charles will resell exclusives that were available at, you know, those other stores prior to that. But yeah, I think Amazon would be a good solution. They're all good. So just consider all the solutions. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to like what I was doing 5 years ago when I started this channel, which is to just sample different music that I wasn't necessarily really into an artist or a musical style, but thought the record looked cool or interesting and wanted to check it out. Unless you're wealthy, you probably couldn't afford to just do that sight unseen online. But if you're in a thrift store and yeah, the records are going to be probably not that cool and probably in poor condition, but there's some diamonds in the rough to be had. So that's my tip for you there. Miles High says never had. Hey, are you in Denver? Miles High. I have to ask with a name like that. Bottle. Oh, you're in Canada. Sorry. A lot of vinyl on Amazon. Never had a problem. That's good. Maple Love says got my first record player, the LP60X. Great choice by your recommendation. It's great. Awesome. I'm glad you love it. Yeah, that's a perfect. That still is the best first record player. It really, really is. To have an automatic, and if that's your first unit, eventually, you know, if you'll get into some higher end stuff maybe, and they'll probably all be manual, and you'll think back to yourself, wow, that LP60 being a fully automatic, that is a great deal. It really, really is. By the way, before I forget, I'm actually talking to Walmart right now about possibly reviewing some of their stuff. They're starting to put up vinyl sections, not just the top 100 records of all time that they always have on display, albeit in special editions oftentimes. But they're starting to sell, you know, some record players and some accessories, you know, sleeves and cleaning systems and stuff. It's getting impressive. So I want to get in front of that and see if we can bring some of that to you. I even had ideas of like going to Walmart stores and doing shows from there or segments. I think that'd be cool. 3-head cassette decks are the best but most expensive, Larry. Yeah, exactly. Maggie says, oh, he's responding. She's responding. Dan Zakari says, okay, sorry if I'm, you guys are talking to each other, which is awesome. Again, if I miss your comment, hit me up again. Larry says, I had a TAC that I messed up because of having auto reverse. Yeah, I've heard of this happening. IG says, I just ordered the Drunk box set by Thundercat, which is 4 10-inch 45s. Do you have any opinion on it? I've never heard about this release or artist, but 45s are good because even if they're larger, like 12-inch 45s or whatever, a 45 is great because it spins faster than a 33 RPM record. More the faster the spinning, the higher quality of the sound. In a 10-inch record, if they're singles, that's smart because then they can spread out the music and have more width between the grooves. I'm not going to go on a tangent on that again, but the groove modulation is controlled by the engineer. So if the record's bigger, then there's more room to space out the grooves. The sound is better. Kieran says, my latest pickup is Daft Punk's Tron Legacy soundtrack on translucent blue and clear white. That's awesome. I love records should all be different colors. Black vinyl is so boring. It's so boring. And some people say it sounds better. I don't believe that because vinyl is going to be white and clear. It's actually clear. They add in carbon black to darken it, but I don't know if I buy that. There's so many subjective things, you guys. There are people out there that listen to records at night because the power's cleaner. Larry says, back in the day, disc washer was the one to clean the records. I think I already read this. Oh, I'm back on comments. See, I think I've missed stuff, and I apologize. How many records would you say you have, says Maple Love. Always amazes me how many some people have because I'm just getting started. Me too. When I started this, my goal was to have about this much records on a shelf because I just wanted to buy some Glenn Miller stuff. Fast forward 5 years, and I have multiple crates. I don't have like a Michael Framer situation going on where it's like shelves and rows and rows and rows, but I have more than those 3 crates, and it is kind of growing all the time. It can't keep growing forever because space is not going to always be available. You know what I mean? So I don't go to the thrift store as much anymore and just pick up a stack of unknown records as I used to. But I have a few. I have more than I need, but not as much as some YouTubers. I'm afraid to put a number on it because some people will be like, oh my gosh, that's too many. And other people will be like, oh my gosh, that's all he has. And he says a YouTube channel. I feel like that's what people would be like. Walmart uses United Records for pressing, or they wouldn't be in charge of the pressing, right? Or is that like a distribution house? La Musica de Gogo. Hi, greetings from Argentina. Welcome. That's awesome. Welcome in. Sorry I'm late on the comments here. It has line input, the turntable, RCA inputs. Not a fan of Walmart, but I have found some amazing LPs there. I think it's just crazy that you can go to Walmart or Target or wherever and buy a record. It just blows my mind. Also, I noticed Best Buy is increasing their selection too. Jody Smith, I just bought the Elton John Diamonds compilation that came out in 2017. The only 2 songs on the whole compilation that are anything special is Blue Eyes and Are You Ready for Love? That's cool. James says, does Target use United Pressing too? Well, these guys wouldn't use pressing plants, right? Because they're just selling, like the records are from UMG or Warner Music or whatever, right? They wouldn't be in charge of the pressing. My thought is that they work with the music publishers to get an exclusive release deal. But maybe I'm wrong. That's my understanding. My Walmart's record section is a mess. You have to really hunt through everything, mixed up, and some are actually crammed. Yeah. Marcus says, I have a Frank Sinatra record, but it has a slight mold. Interesting. Is there a way to get it off? A moldy record. Is it like a LP, like a PVC, or is it a shellac record? I was going to say, too, that I do not recommend washing 78s or any thick record, like even 180 gram vinyl pressing in that spin clean. I have snapped not priceless dollar-wise, but to me, Glenn Miller 78s in that thing before. I have snapped them because it's too thick for the record, for the cleaner. But I would say if you can, I would just try cleaning it. That's probably the best way to do it. Unlike a wax cylinder, you can't just shave it off. When I was starting this channel, I was really into the Victrola guy's channel, and he does the wax cylinder records, and he has like the shaver, he'll take these disgusting moldy records, and he has piles of molded wax on his floor. My son and I are asthmatics. That's not going to happen around here. So vinyl is the way I ended up going primarily. I also thought I'd be mostly doing 78s. Come to find out, I very much have done primarily vinyl. Black vinyl is nice because you can visually see the scratches. That is true. It contrasts. So, okay, that's a good reason. That's one thing I like about colored clear records is they always look clean because you can't see. Would you consider buying Panchico on record or on vinyl? I don't know what that is. Are diamond styli clear? No, they're not, but they don't have a reddish tint to them. So if you were to be able to zoom in. Now there's two basic kinds of styli when you get into higher end equipment. There's bonded, which is what everything up to cartridge wise up to $150 is. Everything from a suitcase player all the way on up, where that means that the bulk of the needle is steel, and the only diamond or ruby part, the jewel, is bonded or glued onto the tip of that metal shank, which is fine because that's the only part that touches. But if that's not aligned properly, if it's misaligned, that can cause problems. The other type, if you get in the $150 and up range of styli, are called nude, which means that the entire stylus, and it's not a shaft, it's a conical thing, initially conical, shape, triangular shape. That whole piece is diamond, and some people swear by that. For instance, the is it 2M red? The 2M red from Ortofon versus the 2M blue from Ortofon. It's the exact same cartridge. It's just that the blue is a nude, and the red is bonded. And because of that, you can buy a red for cheap and the needle separately from the blue, and then upgrade it because it's the same cartridge. But that's the two biggest things. Now, how the tip is shaped and formed and the impact that has, that's another topic for another day, because you've got all sorts of shapes that render different sound. But yeah, again, we've done shows on everything. I think I got caught up. Did I get caught up? I feel like I got caught up. My dad has a record player with a red plastic cartridge case, but the styli is clear, so I was wondering what that was. I've seen those that look like that before too. I think it's more of a mirror surface than actually clear. If it's actually clear, I would be concerned. All right, guys, I'm caught up on comments. So hit me up in the comments down below. We're an hour and 12. We'll probably try to wrap it up here soon. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I've got to come up with a show for tomorrow, and I still don't know what the heck I'm going to do. I'm going to hit up a couple of stores here locally tomorrow and see if there's any cool gadget we can review. I don't have anything right now like that's new that we haven't reviewed. However, I'm always looking for 1 year later reviews. People like those, teardowns and things of that nature. I would love to hear from you if you ever have any recommendations. Penguin Shoes says a vinyl hole reamer is essential accessory. Somebody asked me, I don't know if it was in this chat or if it was on a video, what do you do when the record doesn't fit on the spindle? It happens to me all the time. I just press it down. I don't think I've had but maybe one that I couldn't do that with, but just press it down. We have been developing some custom Record-ology 3D printed 45 adapters. I don't know if I've shown these before. No, they've been on the show. I think I've had them on the show before. So there's two initial designs. One of you guys actually designed these for us, and we were going to be selling these. But this is a custom, and they're not for sale yet. This is still a prototype. But the hole was too small. And so we had to use a reamer kind of thing or a file to open that a little bit, or the file needed to be modified in order to make that happen. Here's the other one. This one doesn't have that problem. But would you guys buy something like this? Like Record-ology merch, like that is actually a vinyl accessory? These are cool. And I've had them on the show a couple of times. I've been sitting on these samples for way too long. We own the files. They were gifted to us by the viewer that designed them for us. So I've toyed with the idea of getting a 3D printer and selling these. to help support the channel. But yeah, it'd be kind of cool. Some of you guys say yes. That's awesome. So we might do that. I think it'd be kind of cool. Just something fun. They're centered. They're well designed. I mean, they do work very well. But yeah, the reverb made me think of that because it did need to be. It was just a tad bit too tight. Okay, so we're getting a question from Brandon. Brandon, your comments are not invisible, I don't think. So if I skip them, it's probably my fault. So let's see. Of those record players you have reviewed, what do you recommend for a beginner over others? I always say the LP60X USB. It's like 130 right now, and supplies are kind of limited. But if you can find one of those, that is a great unit. It's just a great starting. It's got a magnetic cartridge. You can, replace the needle. The cartridge can't be upgraded. It's fixed, but it's the AT3600L, which is a great cartridge. But you can upgrade the needle for like $10. Sounds great. It's got a conical stylus, so your records will sound less scratchy actually, because an elliptical stylus will go a little deeper into that groove, whereas a conical like this will sound a little bit better. And yeah, so I would definitely check that out. We rate, record players on a case-by-case basis, Brandon. So, sometimes if you just watch the videos and we'll say at the end if it's good or not. If there's a link, it means it's good, because I don't want to recommend. I'm not going to let you buy something through our links that are not recommended. But that's probably my number one starting point. If you want a fully automatic compact experience for the best price point, if you have a little bit more money and you want a manual experience where you're queuing things up, it doesn't auto return, it doesn't auto stop, but you want a little bit more control, look at an LP 120 series turntable. Or if you can't quite do that, those are like 300-ish right now. For about $50 or $60 less, you can get the Crosley C100, or a little bit more for the C200, made by the same company. They're only 2 speeds. They're not 3 speeds like the LP 120, but it's a very similar experience. So there's a couple of recommendations for you. I apologize if I've missed any comments. Not intentional. Penguin shoes, vinyl hole reamer. Oh, we already said that. James says, I like buying records from Acoustic Sounds. The pressings are usually very good. Needs a small good shipping box. That's cool. I'll have to check that out. You should take us 78 shopping and find the oldest or cheapest 78. That'd be cool. We haven't done like a crate digging video in a long time. Maybe we should do that tomorrow. Maybe we should do that. Do we have 2021 vinyl tag? Colombian pesos. By the way, thank you for that super chat. That was awesome. Greg Smith says, greetings from Sydney, Australia. Thank you so much. Welcome in. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with me. Keep up the good content, entry level. Yeah, I appreciate that. A lot of times every day I get comments, they're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Don't you know these aren't good record players? Some of them are. I got some great record players reviewed. Some of them not so much. But the whole channel is entry level. It's designed to be that way. It is designed to be that way. So the people that get it, then that's awesome. Jody says, I ended up buying 2 records from Walmart that ended up being bad pressings. Oh, interesting. That sounded tinny. And the problem is, too, a lot of modern records are mastered from digital sources. Like if you get like something that's pressed in the EU, European Union, a lot of times the copyright is a little less strict in that region. So, we'll have imports come back to the United States of like big name artists that are, I forget, there's just some companies that do this a lot. And oftentimes they use compact discs as their source. So, which CDs sound great in my opinion, but once you use it as a dubbing source, you're losing a generation of quality. You know what I mean? So, I don't know if that's the case in that regard. Got about 13, 14, 15 more. Mitch Miller and his gang. Yes, I've got a small collection of Mitch Miller too. Last year I started picking them up. I'm like, you know what? I like Mitch Miller. And I also like, there's a couple other artists that have similar kind of sounds. With the lyric sheets, yes. I love that. Those are fun. Dan Zakari sends 10,000 COP, and I appreciate it for the super chat. Thank you guys so very, very much. If you would have to choose only 5 vinyl records to hear for the rest of your life, this sounds like a Vlogmas type of question. Which records would you choose? I have to answer it. You super chat me, I will answer it completely. I won't dance around it. 5 records. I wish my wife's singing was on record because that would be one of them. I would pick a Glenn Miller record, the one with the most music possible. I would pick a Patsy Cline record with the most music possible. Those are the top 2. 5? I get 5? Man, that's tough. That's brutal. Because you know how it is. I'll listen to a record for a while, and I'll be like, I'll be loving it, and then I put it away for a year, and I don't want to hear it again. But at this moment, I would pick probably a Star Wars soundtrack. I've got that Star Wars Symphony suite, the one that it was a 80s record, and they re-released it. Barnes & Noble has exclusives, too. That would probably be one. Frank Sinatra, probably. Like a greatest hits Frank Sinatra. I get one more, I think. I'll tell you what. For number 5, it's going to be this. This is one of my Christmas presents. Bob's Burgers, the album, Volume 2. Why? Because I haven't heard it. This would keep me busy on a desert island for a long time. So, Bob's Burgers, I love this show. I haven't seen very many of them, but I want to. This is the 2nd volume, and there is a lot of content. This counts as a record, right? 1 record, because it's actually got 3 records in it. And this is awesome. Check this out. They're just black vinyl pressings, but this has a lot of content. Let me see if I can show this. This would probably be one just because it would keep me busy for a while. This is all new, too. I'm going to use my record net instead of touching the record. What do you think about that? All right, here we go. Check that out. So, I don't know if you guys can see. Look down there. See how many tracks there are? There's a lot of stuff on here, you guys. A lot of stuff on here. That's my answer, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you for the super chat. That's awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Time to put this back. Desert island and a record player. We'd be deserted, but we would having tunes, so that's good. I'm just going to put this here for right now. And I will knock that down in the morning. Jason says, Hall & Oates Walmart exclusive is really tinny. I bought a few days ago. Really? Hall & Oates is one of those artists that I realize after I don't think I know them very much, and I'll find out I know all their songs. Also, I did that with Billy Joel. I recently realized that I like every one of Billy Joel's songs. I just didn't know they were Billy Joel songs, especially like 80s stuff. Amazingly prolific artist. Same thing with Hall & Oates. Sunlight Lighter 01 says, I have an LP60 turntable that I bought 5 years ago. It has issues with the sound every time someone walks across the wood floor. Fix the issue by putting bamboo mat. Interesting. So, by the way, the first version, the LP60X, you could tell this, or this LP60, the original, that has a raised area behind the platter. Those are great. We reviewed one of those or 2 of those before we even got the LP60X version. The LP60X the arm drops a little softer. There's a couple of improvements, but the original LP60s are great turntables. Typically walk across the room issues or vibrations, and it sounds like you did the right thing. So 29th says, it is sad I have a 1900s record cabinet completely full with 78s and very little 33s. That's not sad. That's cool. James says, I have a U-turn Orbit that can be sensitive to people walking nearby. I'm considering buying some aftermarket isolation feet. Silicone, like big cushy isolation feet. That's a good idea. Sunlighter01 says, what was the first record you bought? I remember going to Tower Records with my dad back in the 80s. First record I bought for myself was Janet Jackson's Control. That's awesome. So there's 2 answers to this because I grew up in the 80s, and my first interaction with vinyl records was my Fisher-Price record player, which I have down here. not the toy one that played the fake records. It was really a music box, but the actual record player. I have another one, not the actual one, but we've reviewed it, had it on the show a few times. One of my intros has that in it. So my mom bought the blue and white version, and it had a problem. And then she went back and bought this, I think at a garage sale. And found out years later that most of my toys were from garage sales. So that was cool. And just a stack of records. And one of my first records I remember having was a greatest hits. I need to find it again. I bet I could dig and find it, but it was a greatest hits of the 50s. And it was like doo-wop stuff. You know what I mean? It was like Rockin' Robin and stuff like that. That was the first record that I remember. My dad was a DJ. And so back in the 70s, and he gave me, or at the time, let me use a stack of 45s. And I still have quite a few of them somewhere around here. And those are from the radio station that he played. And I just would sit there with my Fisher-Price record player and a stack of records, and I would just play them. Most of them were like country, and at the time I really didn't care for country. And I would sit there. This is silly. This is really silly. But we had a small trampoline, and I would take drumsticks and play along to the music with my drumsticks on the trampoline. It made a great drum pad. And then I came across this record by the Oak Ridge Boys, the song Elvira. That became my first favorite song. But yeah, those are my first kind of forays into vinyl. Then when I left it behind, left it in the dust, never to return, moving on to, tapes and CDs and streaming and MP3s, never thinking I would come back to it. But alas, finally coming back in about 2015, late 2015, when I got back into it, a couple years prior to the show, actually, starting in 2017. My first record that I bought with my birthday money was the soundtrack to Wizard of Oz, which I still have. It was scratched right out of the thing. I got it at Barnes and Noble. So I learned that paper sleeves can really scratch your records. I was saying, like, a pristine record, how could it be scratched up already? And it was because of that paper sleeve. I didn't get the emerald green edition, the exclusive. I got the black vinyl, but that started it all again. So this time deeper and darker than ever before. Another super chat. Brendan, what are you doing? Thank you so much for the super chat. You guys have been knocking it out of the park with the super chats tonight. I'm extremely humbled, very appreciative. You are awesome. Awesome, Brandon. LP60X or C100 Bluetooth, often paired against each other. Which one would you pick? Mr. Record-ology Dude Man. That's my favorite name that I've been given. So Mr. Record-ology Dude Man says to you, Brandon, that's a good question. Because they're both very separate style turntables. By the way, the new C100 does, I think it has USB and Bluetooth. Yeah, wait, does it? I don't want to say that. I'm scared. It may not have USB, but it does have Bluetooth. So it's more. You're looking at like 240-ish, I think, for the C100 BT versus 130. The C100 is going to come with a better cartridge that can be upgraded because it uses a standard half-inch mount shell. But the LP60X is only $130. They're both made by the same company. They're both made by Handpin. But they're both totally separate experiences, and that's what it comes down to. Do you want a turntable like the C100 that's fully manual that you need to queue up? You have to, at the end of the record, you have to bring it back. It's not going to stop automatically. It's not going to return automatically. It's not going to start automatically. It's not going to do anything automatically. Do you want that manual experience? With that comes benefits like a strobe, so you can set the speed precisely, things like that. Complete and utter control. And more lights and things. It's cool. It's a very manual turntable. It is belt driven, as is the LP60. Or do you want the LP60 because it's smaller and it's a set it and forget it, push button operation, start, stop, fully automatic return. I love automatic turntables. My daily driver, right over here off camera, LP3, it's like the step up from the LP60. By the way, Audio-Technica does have this in white and black now on their website again, which is cool to see. And it's awesome just to hit start and to hit stop and to have it come back on its own. I've got very shaky hands due to asthma medicine that I'm on. So if you see my videos where I'm queuing, this last one was really bad. If you watch Sunday's show, I'm like trying to queue up the record, and I'm like a person with really bad shaking hands. But if you want automatic, then go with the LP60. If you want manual, C100 is a great starting point. C100 is 2-speed. If you want the 3-speed and all the fancy manual controls, LP120 series is what you have to go. But they're both good. The LP60 is a great turntable. By the way, you can operate it manually. You can still manually cue it up. Some people are like, well, what if I don't want to play the first track? What if I want to skip to the next song, the next 2 or 3 tracks? You can still move that stylus it's got a tone arm lift. You can move it, gently descend on any track you want. The only thing it doesn't do, unless you modify it, which I wouldn't recommend, is come to the end of the record manually without auto returning. It's always going to auto return. So it's semi-automatic in that sense. So you either get semi-automatic and automatic, or you get full manual. So that would be my recommendation. Thank you for the super chat. That's awesome. You're awesome. Style and Moose says you may want to store your records in an anti-static liner instead of the paper it comes in, as it lowers the static and scratching. Lots of static in Colorado. Boy, do I know that. Yesterday, I was chasing goblins out of this thing all day because the music was, my reel-to-reel is what that is, by the way, was popping. I couldn't figure it out. I was just sitting there playing it, and then all of a sudden, pop, and the sound would go down. And then it would slowly increase and pop and come down. I was like, what on earth? It's static. It is so bone dry right now, you guys. It is bone dry, which reminds me, I actually meant to get our humidifier up and going because at night, man, your mouth is just like paper. Your tongue is like dry. It's like sandpaper. So yeah, that's highly recommended. All of my records are, except for that one I showed you, are in anti-static inner and outer sleeves. We reviewed the Hudson Hi-Fi, and there's a lot of anti-static sleeves. But I really like, let's see. The Hudson Hi-Fi ones are great. These are rice paper inner lining, and then an anti-static sleeve. So yeah, these are great. Highly, highly recommended. Check out our review on them. They really help because static here is insane. It's absolutely crazy insane. What record did I pick? I pulled out one record and got 2. I have a couple records that have missing sleeves, or the sleeves are too damaged, so they're just sitting in there. What is this? Is this Hawaiian music? I actually have a Hawaiian music section. Sometimes I'll do shows back in the corner there. I have it set up like a vinyl record shop, which is fun. Good recommendation. Yeah, the sleeves, inner and outer sleeves. If you can afford it, it's really, especially if you buy thrift store records and they're just like in these cardboard sleeves, you can hear it scratching and grinding. It's terrible. So the sleeves are mandatory. Best place to find record sleeves for cheap. There's a bunch of different brands on Amazon, but I recommend the Hudson Hi-Fi ones for sure. You can buy them in bulk, and they're fantastic. Never had a single problem with one. Do you remember the music store chain called Music Biz from back in the day? I do not. For us here in Colorado, Sam Goody was huge. My favorite store in the 90s when I was, collecting the bulk of my CDs was Media Play. Do you remember Media Play? That was cool. I remember the malls having music stores. Man, I miss that. And bookstores. The malls are so boring now because it's just clothes. My wife's in paradise. She's like, this is great. All the boring stuff is gone. I'm like, no, all the boring stuff is here and all the cool stuff is gone. What the heck? Man, I miss that. It used to be Walden books, a couple, like every mall would have 2 or 3 different book chains, 2 or 3 different music chains. There was Borders Books and Music. That's all gone. Man, I miss that stuff. Second and Charles is actually, they're actually in a couple of those old buildings that used to belong to Borders. And it's the closest thing. It's the closest thing. We have a music biz and video biz still in my hometown. Yeah, I've never heard of either of those. Lucas says, hi, by the way, welcome in, Lucas. If I buy an old gramophone, is there anything I can do to play modern vinyl? No, you don't want, if you're talking about one with like a steel needle and a reproducer, then no, you don't ever want to play vinyl on one of those. They track, like, instead of like grams, they track in ounces, which there's a big difference there. So don't, in fact, hey, Google, how many grams are in an ounce?
1 ounce is 28.35 grams.
Okay.
To convert from ounces to grams, multiply unit of mass by approximately 28.35.
28. So we're talking tolerances. First of all, vinyl can handle up to about 9 grams on a good day. Okay. So those are designed to play shellac records. And that kind of goes to my point as to why people scream 5 grams. The Crosley suitcase player, 5 grams of downforce is shredding your records. It's destroying your records. It is so featherweight compared to, old school gramophones. Now, if you really want to piss people off and you want the gramophone look with the modern vinyl record experience, I'm not going to recommend this because I am an owner of a 1917 Vita Nola phonograph with hand wind crank and a mica pickup. It's so old that it doesn't even, you can't even play electrically recorded 78s. So records, you're not supposed to. Mine actually works pretty good with it, but you're not supposed to play records past 1925 on them. So even like 30s big band records, they're electrically recorded. They're too loud and they'll blow out the diaphragms on a lot of those older ones. You're supposed to play only the acoustic, like that one-sided record we looked at earlier, like that old of a record. Okay. I own one of those, so I would never recommend doing this to that, but I've seen it done where they take out that vintage system and put in the cabinet a modern record player. I can't in good conscience recommend that, but it can be done. Also, there are Chinese companies on Amazon. We've reviewed a few of them that make vintage looking record players with the horn and everything that play a modern record, but the sound quality it's ceramic cartridges and kind of like suitcase player level sound. Although one of them had an amazing sound system, but one of the speakers wouldn't work on vinyl. The record player only went to one of the two speakers had a passive reflex. Bluetooth sound was amazing, had the horn and everything. But yeah, that's my 2 cents there. Is any artist releasing songs on 78s? It's done kind of in a boutique fashion here and there. There's no mainstream releases on 78s. There was a company that went and they did a Glenn Miller. It was a very weird project. What they did is they licensed from Sony, who owns the RCA Masters now. They're in Iron Mountain in Pennsylvania, in an actual Iron Mountain. They have all the masters from Glenn Miller, the metal parts that were used to make the stampers and stuff. And they licensed the 10 different songs, which they had scanned into high resolution lossless Sony codecs at that point, so they didn't need the metal parts, but they licensed access to the lossless high res audio files and remastered yet again this Glenn Miller music, and it sounded amazing. Like you were hearing people breathing on these recordings that were cut in wax in the late 30s electrically, but still, very primitive by today's standards, recording techniques, and they made the sound incredible. But their project was to press a 10 disc set of 10-inch vinyl 78s that were micro groove. And I'm like, what on earth? It was for jukebox people to have 10-inch. And I'm like, what? How many jukebox owners are A, going to want Glenn Miller music, B, going to have a player that accepts 10-inch discs that has light enough tracking force to play on vinyl and has a micro groove stylus? It seemed so whatever. But apparently they hit their mark and they sold out their initial run, and it blew my mind. So it's some boutique stuff that's done. There's even people that get together and record wax cylinders acoustically or record disc records acoustically. There's people that will do everything. Pretty much, if you can imagine it, somebody's doing it somewhere. And it's not only, records, unfortunately. All right, guys, going to wrap it up here. If you have any last minute questions or comments, hit me up in the chat. I'm going to get through the last few here. I'll make sure we didn't miss any super chats or anything. Looks like we got them all. Again, thank you guys for the super chats tonight. This has been a surprise. I got one older size, one 5 or 6. James says, we have a Newberry comic store in our local mall here that's pretty large records. That's cool. You're lucky. That's where I usually go on a record store day. This past Christmas, I was at a mall I don't usually go to, and they had an FHE in it. And somebody mentioned that earlier. It was cool. They had CDs. I got a Patsy Cline CD at a store in the mall. That was like, what? That was so cool. That was fun. So that's cool. I love it. Maybe it'll come back to the point when we have that. But, vinyl records last year was another record-setting year. So maybe we're still on this rebound. I don't know. Mark says decorative vinyl records, storage box, set of 2 for 100 plus single records. Storage boxes are cool. Jody says if an artist to release an album on 16 RPM, would they be able to put more songs on it? Yes, they are. Those 2 records right there are 16 RPM records with an extra large hole. Those are 9-inch Seberg records, which were the background music in the store kind of in the 60s. And I've got a couple of those, 2 or 3 of them. And those are 16 RPM, and the sound is surprisingly good, even though it's slower. But yeah, the slower the rotation, the more you can fit on a record. You can also fit more on a record a couple of different ways too. For instance, if you've ever come across a 33 RPM record, a 12-inch record that says DMM on it, which means direct metal mastering, that means that instead of the record being recorded in a glass or acetate master disc, it was recorded direct to a metal disc. And in so doing, they could cram those grooves closer together. So the more grooves there are can also increase how many songs are on it. I've got a Patsy Cline DMM record that's got like 22 songs per side. It's amazing. It's like 22. It's amazing how much songs, full length, and it's still spinning at 33 RPM, but those grooves are sandwiched so tight. They're only able to do that with DMM because if you take a non-DMM record, when it's mastered in those grooves, the walls tend to deform a little bit. So the groove next to the groove wall can deform a little bit. And so if you get those grooves too close together, you'll start hear shadowing of the next groove coming up because the groove wall is being deformed from the previous groove. So that's kind of an issue. Also, another thing is if you have 45 EPs, can also fit more music because it's still 45 RPM, still a 7-inch record, but they are able to squeeze the groove in smaller. It's like closer together. So Paul says, what do you think about 180 gram vinyl? Most vinyl 78s were pretty floppy. Do you think 180 will hold up in 30 years? That's a good question. I'm not a huge 180 gram fan. If I come across a record that's 180 grams, I think that's fine. I think it's cool. I mean, it feels high quality and thick. But I've still seen them warp. My son has an Imagine Dragons. I think it's over here right now. 180 gram pressing that's really badly warped. And so I don't feel that they're any more or any less prone to warpage. But, when they're flat, I think it's cool. I've heard of, 200 grams and up. But I've also heard that when they're that thick, sometimes the grooves are shallower because they're not pressed as tightly. And the sound can actually suffer. So you're right. Records in the 70s and 80s were thinner, really thin. Like if you get like a Dynagroove or a Dynaflex disc RCA from the 70s. That thing will flap in the wind. I've got a Charlie Brown Christmas record that literally is almost like a flexi disc, which you could roll up and then unroll. I mean, it's a thin record. But I personally, to me, thickness of records isn't a big deal to me personally. For me, I'm more interested in interesting color or additions or what's on it more than the thickness of the record. But I remember when I didn't know anything about it, I was seeing 180 grams. I was like, is that like the different kind of material? Is it a different vinyl? But it's just the weight of the record overall. So me personally, not huge deal to me. Do you have any Mills Brothers records? I do. I actually came across the other day. I've got a 7-inch, 33 RPM, 7-inch Mills Brothers. I love the Mills Brothers. They're awesome. Greg says, record and CD fairs in the USA, or are they a thing of the past like Australia? So we call them record shows or vinyl shows, and they do have them. CDs, maybe at a record show, but not an exclusively CD show. But yeah, they pop up 2 or 3. There was a big one that was a couple months ago, and I had the thing on my wall to remind me, and sure enough, I forgot it. It was too late. So yeah, they do exist. It's definitely a thing still. Penguin Shoes says record convention shows are a thing here. I live in Metro Detroit and went to Morrisey. That's cool. I want to go to one. I totally want to go to one. That would be cool. Google record shows. Yeah, there you go. So cool. Guys, we've got an hour and 46 minutes. I can't believe it. This has been a very active group. I appreciate you very, very much taking the time to spend with me, and as you do every single day. I got a great show coming for you tomorrow. I just wish I knew what it was. So I'll dig up something. I'll be daydreaming at work tomorrow, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? But I'm excited for it. So thank you so very, very much for joining me tonight. Take care of each other. It's kind of rough around the edges out there right now. So look after one another. Stay safe. And keep your priorities straight. But I'm appreciative and thankful for each one of you for taking the time of being here. And John, first comment and last comment. Thank you for a great show. Thank you for a great chat and experience with you guys. I appreciate you. I love you all. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow, guys. Bye.